Join us.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, we're going to go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now this time it will be Nightwing from the Gotham Knights wave based on the video game. Now I have only picked up one other figure from this wave, and that is the Red Hood. So pretty interested to get into this guy. Turning out to be a pretty cool wave. Now he looks rather limber in his packaging, but let's go ahead and take a look at him. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now, these are not really needed, but sometimes they do come in useful. He also comes with his data file card. On the front, you do have some figure photography, looking pretty cool. And on the back, you do have some information. And then we'll go ahead and add this to the collection. Now, he does come with two accessories, and that is his Eskrima sticks. Pretty much par for the course that comes with Nightwing. He always has his batons. These, from what I can see from the video game, are some like electrified or like stunner batons. And they do have some pretty cool paint apps and a little bit of sculpture work done into them. They're not just plain cylindrical batons. They do have some cool stylization to them, so that's pretty awesome. Now let's go ahead and take a look at them. First off, first impressions. Now, this is just another version of Nightwing. This is based on, of course, the video game. So you are going to have a little bit of different components to this one, but it is basically your Dick Grayson. Loving like the cool armor kind of stylized suit that they have him in. He is rather like tall and more sort of like sport look to him, like kind of like athletic equipment kind of, a little bit based on like a more realistic, like if you, instead of just your basic spandex costume, this is more like padding and things you could get probably at your local sports store, but still looks pretty cool. Let's go ahead and take a look at the head sculpt. Now this is a pretty good Dick Grayson head sculpt. I think that the domino mask is a little bit big for me. Like it just seems a little bit like taking over more of the eyes than it should be. I wish it would be like a little bit smaller compared to the rest of the composition of the face. But it's still pretty cool. He has that cool parted on the side, you know, combed over hair. Really nicely sculpted in. You can see his eyes peeking through the domino mask. And he does have a little bit of paint detail on the face. You have the lips painted in there. Pretty nice. Let's take a look at the articulation. He can look up very well. He can look down extremely well. Could turn to the right and turn to the left. And then you can tilt his head for some character. Now, one thing I have noticed and I have seen on some other reviews is his head is sitting a little bit tall for the peg. Like the peg is a little bit taller than it should be. It kind of sits on that neck port like a little bit high. if you do ease his head forward a little, it does fit perfectly. But as soon as you get out of that range and you try and like make him look down or tilt him too much to the side, you start getting some gappage there. Now it would not be hard to cut the peg and drop down the head a little, just a tad. But for right now, I'm going to leave it like that just because I think it sits well on the body, even though you could tell that it has a little bit of space in there. But, you know, looking at him, it looks like it sits really well proportionately to the shoulders and the neck. So for right now, I'm just going to leave it like that. Maybe later on, I'll cut the peg down, modify it to make it a little bit shorter. But for right now, it's working for me, basically. So we'll leave it alone. Now going ahead and moving down, you get all that cool detail of the armor work on his torso and chest. You have that nice Nightwing symbol embossed, raised on there, and a lot of cool piping work and sculpted out pads. Pretty nice. Let's check out the articulation. You can rock them from side to side. He does have that full range of motion in the waist where you could swivel him around. He does have a chest swivel, and then he does have a lower waist swivel. A little tight, but you can get it to move around. And then of course you can twist him to get him in some cool poses. And then he actually leans forward fairly well and then back extremely well. Just have to be careful with these like layered in paddings. They have like the upper chest padding and then the lower abdominal padding, and it kind of like floats over the trunks part around his pelvic area. So you just gotta be careful not to bunch it up, but it surprisingly does have a lot of range of motion with all these three components put together. Pretty sweet. And take a look at the arms. He does have butterfly shoulder joints. He does have a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. Pretty cool for reaching all the way to the back there. Take a look at his forearms. It's pretty smooth up until you get to that wrist joint. It has a little bit of sculpt work and a protruding little piece that covers that ball joint. But pretty smooth articulation in the wrists. And of course you have the same on the right side. Now you can pop up his shoulders actually into a pretty awesome Y pose. Pretty smooth joints there. Let's take a look at his thigh swivel. It's there, but not too much. But you know, it's not the worst I've seen, but it's not the best. But you can still twist his leg out like so, and then he has that cool hip articulation where you could swivel the leg around like this. Can also show off those double jointed knees, straighten them out, move down to the ankle. He does have up and down. He does have like this little notch of plastic right above the front of his foot, and it kind of stops there, but not too much of a hindrance. You do have left to right. You do have rocker, which actually works surprisingly well. And then you do have toe articulation. Let's go ahead and take a complete look at the lower body legs. More cool sculpt work. You got a little hint of blue there on the thighs. One thing for sure, this plastic is like really nice. It's light, but still has a little bit of sturdiness to it, but it moves really smoothly when you move the joints. Articulate it has like a smoothness to it that's pretty nice. Take a look at these shoes. I don't know what it is, but that white stripe at the bottom just gives it like a crazy more hip look, I would say, you know what I mean? It doesn't make it so dull. Like it actually gives it like a little bit of accent and character, if you could say that, to his footwear. Pretty cool. Pretty nice. Let's take a look at the bottom. Not really any tread, but he does have some identifying marks. Going up the back, just a pretty cool, just the same, you know, sculpt work. Little wrinkles in there going up to the smoothness of his lower back. And then another pretty cool touch is he does have his storage for his escrima sticks. You could stick them in there. He can compartment them there, stow them away until he needs them. Pretty nice. Of course, you can also add the escrima sticks to his hands pretty easily. Just push him through his fingers there. You could get him in some cool poses. Now that is one thing I've noticed about this guy is he's pretty smoothly articulated and has a lot of range of motion. I mean, of course, Nightwing usually does, but this guy just seems to have a lot more. So you could actually get him in some crazy one-footed poses, some stances, and also some acrobatic, you know, poses. Pretty characteristic for Nightwing to get him in those pretty acrobatic poses. So he, all in all, he looks really good. Let's see if we bring him in with the original Nightwing release. You could see that this is a more clean comic book rendition. And what you could tell also is that this is when McFarlane first started. So the plastic is like really stiff. And the articulation is limited because of the tightness of the joints and of the plastic. And this guy is a little bit more lighter and smoother, and you could just feel the dexterity like when you have him in your hands. So it just depends what you want to go with, a more comic accurate look or a more stylized version. This is more to do with the video game, but he still looks good. I would still use either one. It's just your personal preference, which you like. Not too hard to stand. And then let's go ahead and bring him in with his partner in the Gotham Knights, the Red Hood. Now, of course, this is my custom version. It has a lot of added paint. Then I did add those magnetized holsters to his pistols, and you could put them in his hand or attach them to his holster. Then use them together in some cool poses. All in all, pretty happy with it. This is just like, you know, a little different version of the characters to have up on the shelf. I will be looking forward to the Tim Drake and the Batgirl. But pretty happy with them. You guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.